Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. This was sent to me by Z-Man Games and is designed by Prospero Hall. Can you survive the House of Danger? Gather your friends for a perilous and laughter-filled adventure through the House of Danger. Make risky choices, collect bizarre clues, and face mortal challenges. Play again and again to uncover more secrets and more exciting endings. Let me show you how to play. The object of the game is you're an aspiring detective and psychic investigator, and for weeks you've experienced recurring nightmares that you sense might be important, and your mission is to get to the bottom of these visions. You decide how to move through the story as a group, and the story is divided into 5 chapters, each of which is to be played in a single session. Now, before you set up anything, they recommend you look at this nightmare image for 2 minutes and study it. I'm not going to focus on this too much, because this is kind of part of the game, but you study it and for clues about places to visit and objects to investigate, as moving toward them will help unravel the mystery of your nightmares. That's enough of that. Don't want you to get too spoiled by it. Anyway, let me set up the board. So here's how the game looks after you have it set up. You've got your game board, your danger meter, your psychic scale, your chapter cards, or story cards, I mean, your clue cards, and you have some starting items. In this case, a pocket knife and a bottle of water. You also have a die. I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but to just give you a sense of what the cards look like, here's Chapter 1, The Grounds. It's a Tuesday morning in late June, and you wake up in a cold sweat. I'm not going to read all of it, it's a lot of nice reading, and I don't know if this is directly taken from the original book. It might be, but as you can see here, it'll tell you to do certain actions, like draw clue 26 to discover your goal, in which case you take 26 from this clue stack and reveal it, which says Chapter 1 goal, get inside the Marzen house. So that is your goal for that specific chapter. Story cards will often give you choices to decide between, like in the original Choose Your Own Adventure book. So in this case, you can, if you search the wall for a way in, go to story card 13. If you climb the gate, go to story card 7. So then you would take the appropriate card from the stack and read it, continue from there. Basically, whenever the game tells you to pull out a clue or a story card, you just follow directions. Very simple. The game has 5 chapters total, each with its own goal, and you obviously keep the goal in mind as you progress through the chapter. If you die during your adventure, you move your psychic mover back the number of spaces on this psychic scale as directed by the card and go to the previous story card. So dying isn't permanent, it's just a setback. The danger meter here represents your precarious state. As the danger rises, you are less capable of meeting the perils of your adventure. And the numbers on the danger meter indicate the current difficulty of any challenges you face. If you are instructed to raise or lower the level on the danger meter, you just move this up and down as directed by the number of spaces. If the danger mover reaches the space at the top of the danger meter by exact count or more, you must stop and take a penalty, in which case you would take your psychic mover and move it back 2 spaces on the scale. Then you reset the danger meter to the third 3 space on the danger scale, and you would begin your next story card based off of this setup. Some cards will present challenges, like here it says optional challenge, fight the creature. If you win, you can draw clue 10. If you lose, you raise your danger meter by 2. And how you do that is you take your die and you roll it. It's a 5. To win the challenge, you must roll a number equal to or greater than the number marked by the danger mover on the danger meter. So right now we're on level 3 on the danger meter, so we succeeded. You would draw clue 10, which I won't show you for spoiler reasons, and get maybe an item or a different kind of card. If your roll is less, you lose, and you would move your danger meter up by 2 accordingly, and the challenges would therefore get harder. Some items, like the pocket knife, can boost your challenge success rate. In this case, for the sort of fighting challenges, this would add +1. However, if you ever roll a 1 on any challenge, you automatically lose, even if you're using a challenge booster. Also, you lose the item permanently. Some items just say keep to use later, and then there are other items like the bottle of water, like I mentioned. In this case, you can discard it at any time to lower your danger meter by 3 if you're worried that the challenges are getting too hard. Like I mentioned before, there are challenge boosters, and there are 5 types of challenges: climbing, fighting, dexterity, perception, and strength. You can only use 1 challenge booster per challenge, so before you roll, you place the item that you want to use and place it in that slot. That way you kind of commit to it. Then, like I said before, whatever your roll is, you add the number to that to boost your roll outcome. But if you roll a 1, you lose this item permanently. Now, the psychic scale represents the level of your extrasensory powers throughout the game. Actions you take during your adventure will raise it or lower it, and higher levels will yield beneficial rewards. Now, there are also premonition cards like this one. The Nightmare that I showed you at the beginning is one example of these sort of psychic impressions you can receive from the clue deck. If your level on the psychic scale is high enough, you may be rewarded with premonitions, and these images are warnings of dangers ahead. So if you see a premonition, you might go, okay, if there's a choice that's going to lead me towards what that might be, that's a sign of danger, and let's stay away from that. Now, when you reach a story card that indicates that you achieved your goal, like the Chapter 1 goal, get inside the house, it'll be very clear when you've achieved it, you may move on to the next chapter. You keep all items you found, and you keep your positions on the danger meter and psychic scale. And then you return all the cards and clues to the game box, and take out the card sets for the next chapter. You can save the game and play the next chapter another time. You just have to store your items separately from other components and make sure you just note down your psychic scale and danger meter positions. At key places in the story, special story returns let you go back in the current chapter to pursue alternate experiences. That way you might get new items to add to your inventory, but every choice you make comes with a risk. You might fall down the psychic scale or climb up the danger meter as a result. If you do choose to go back in the story, there are two rules. Cards you have already seen cannot be added to your inventory again, and cannot lower the danger meter or move you forward on the psychic scale. And also, you must make it back to the story card with your chapter goal in order to continue to the next chapter. And that's pretty much it. When you finish Chapter 5, you reach the end of the story and the game. There are several different endings, and the ending you see depends on the choices you made and items you found. Now, a lot of this is kind of vague because I can't show you too much of the story because it's kind of the fun, right? It's discovering the story. But all it is really is just reading the story, making decisions to go to different pages or cards, and beating challenges and getting items and trying to figure out the mystery. That's pretty much it. So this game is pretty much exactly what you'd expect, for better and for worse. It perfectly captures what makes those choose your own adventure books fun. Like, I loved these books as a kid. They're cheesy and over the top and filled with ridiculous scenarios. I didn't want to spoil any of them because that's part of the fun, right? Is uncovering the mystery and finding out all these crazy things that happened. But turning this into a game gets you more invested in succeeding, which is good and bad. Because as perfectly as it captures the feel of reading those books, it also captures the unfairness those books could have with how easily it is for you to die. It's kind of a mixed bag. The gameplay is incredibly simple. You roll dice for tasks, get the items, and make decisions. In terms of objective game design, it's pure luck, right? You don't know what's going to happen if you go to this page and roll this dice on this challenge. But because the game is so light and the writing is so fun, you just kind of have fun with it. You don't play this game expecting it to be a particularly deep experience. It's goofy, and you're playing it mainly for laughs as a group. The premonition cards are a clever little mechanic of helping you steer away from dangerous situations. I like that sort of foreshadowing element of, oh, we have these images, what do they mean? Oh, let's not go that way because I think that's what this card means. That's a pretty neat idea. As far as the length goes, I guess you could play the game in short chapter bursts like they recommended, but the whole experience is only a couple of hours. I would recommend just playing it all the way through. But let's talk about my main complaint of the game. It's never made explicitly clear how necessary it is to find specific items in order to get a good ending. You are given chances to backtrack and explore at the end of each chapter, which is true, but in doing so, you risk running into an instant death scenario or wasting your time and just reducing your psychic scale, which is bad. We got a terrible ending at the end of this, but before it happened, we didn't feel like we were behind or were missing anything. We had no idea. It's basically at the end of the game, they're like, do you have this and this and this and this? Okay, you get this ending. You don't have this, you get a bad ending. Which kind of sucked ass. If you're reading a Choose Your Own Adventure book, it's funny if you die, because you can just turn back to the page you were on before, and there's no consequence. But in a game, especially one that's kind of like campaign-driven, quote-unquote, it kind of sucks, because you're punished. You are constantly punished with your danger meter going up, or your psychic scale going down, and you need your psychic scale to be up for certain things. So the game, while it tells you to backtrack, it punishes you for just stumbling into bad, deadly situations by chance. That, and because the gameplay is so heavily luck-based, Oftentimes, you just lose progress because of bad rolls. You roll the 1, okay, you lose that item and you don't get that thing. Fuck you. That's pretty much how it feels. The game is not short enough to just go, we can just try again. Start from the beginning. It's a pretty, like a couple hours. Like, you're not going to play this more than once in a sitting. And also, if you already know everything that happens in the book, there's not a ton of replay value. So basically, all of this boils down to being just like those Choose Your Own Adventure books you read as a kid. They're fun and goofy and pretty engaging. Like, I like the writing in this. It's fun. But it's full of cheap deaths. And again, like I said, in a book, that's fine. But in a game, those are pretty fucking frustrating. I feel like this game wants you to have that feel of, oh, we got eaten by alligators, or oh, we fell into a pit. But it also punishes you for discovering these, like, funny deaths. It's like, you can't have both. You can't have this be like, oh, we gotta, do really well and get our score up, our psychic scale up, so we don't, let's avoid as much danger as we can. But that makes your experience almost blander if you're making only the safe decisions because you're worried about your scale. But if you do want to, like, explore every route and see all the bad things that can happen to you, you're gonna get a bad ending, because that's how the game is set up. It wants you to be invested in its mechanics enough where you're worried about your scale and blah, 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 blah. But it also wants to fuck you up with random shit. It's not the best balance, I feel. I'd say it's worth a shot. If you're interested in recreating the classic experience, the game is fun. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed playing the game, but it's not incredible. And it's not super fair with its gameplay. That's all. You gotta go into this with sort of lowered expectations, and then you'll have a good time. But just beware, it's as cheap as those books were, if not worse.